gone up, and there's almost this expectance that, hey, why are you now charging me like $5,000 when a couple of years ago it was only $2,000? Not taking into a fact of how much more now it's become expensive as an independent business owner to be able to just continue your own services because nobody's helping you with the regards to the cost. It's like you have to charge more. Otherwise, you don't make any money.
And that is such a real thing. And the other caveat to that is that because people want to be photographers, they'll lower their rates in order to get the work. And so you've got an increase in living expenses, an increase in equipment, all of those things when you go to replace them or when you drop something. And then the photographers out there that are just trying to get their feet underneath them, they're charging so much less. And so it's become more and more important that you do more, that you are not just a photographer, but you're a business owner, you are a consultant, you are a resource for other businesses. So it's very, very different.
It's strange because you're expected then to give higher quality, the time and effort and energy that's being put in sometimes in careers that are 10, 15, even 20 years long. And literally rival over people that are just trying to flood the market. And obviously they have every right to make money too. It's not like it's, ruled by one monopoly. But the complete disregard about how even in the art world, if it's marketing or photography or any of these things, that it's harder for those houses, those productions, those studios to give you the better quality at Fiverr prices. Let's just be honest. You can't charge Fiverr prices and be able to make a living. Can't.
And I think that whenever you're in a creative field, trying to monetize it when people don't have as much respect for it. So you have to find the clients that truly value what you do rather than just going out and finding any kind of work. It's truly soul sucking to go out there and work with people that don't value what you do. It just sucks the creative life right out of you.
It's strange though, because look, there is a lot of negative context and a lot of stories that have come up, especially when you deal with corporate America. There are a lot of American corporations that, to be very fair, they drain American citizens, treat them like robots and garbage. But you still do need corporations. We do live in an industrial age, and there are corporations as corporate as they are. They're trying to do the best that they can. They're trying to make a difference. They're trying to make an effort. And sometimes they really do want to invest in their marketing, their advertisements, their photography. Yeah, they're not the most exciting company. Yeah, they're not the most honest company, but they're trying to make a little bit of a difference. They're trying to have a little bit of a better outreach. And especially when they're trying to get in touch with like getting their ideas out and getting it actually on page instead of some, all right, we'll talk about this, but some of those stupid marketing ads that they've come up with the past couple of years, I'm just like, what? What did I just watch? Like,
Yeah, did you hear about the Jaguar campaign where they didn't even have a
yeah,
car in it?
I'm in the auto industry. I'm like, every BMW commercial has a BMW in the BMW commercial. That is the purpose of
Yeah.
BMW. It's crazy.
Yeah, they just went. I don't know who made that decision, but the advertising, I understand the advertising agency wanting to be creative. That's what we all want to do. But the marketing person at Jaguar that says that sounded like a great idea.
You know, and then you look at ideas that, for example, like on the end of, like, you have Kia. Kia, personally, as an auto tech, it's like one of the worst car brands you could possibly buy as a vehicle. If you're leasing it, good luck. Hopefully that engine doesn't blow up after 2 years of ownership. But when they came out with the Kia Soul back in 2010, they had this really cute advertisement where they had hamsters driving their cars. And it was so silly and so stupid, but it kind of made sense. It was like a small, little compact, trying to be fun, little weird car. So an ad like that makes a lot of sense, right? But then you have like companies that are like, trying to commercialize like medication, and they're just like la 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 la. They have a whole song going on. I'm like, this may cause diarrhea, constipation, blood clots, and going through the whole list. And you're just like, what? The complete disregard. And it's not about like, it's about common sense, right? Because when you're mixing art, marketing, you know, knowing the brand, where to position them, doesn't any of this take into account before you actually put this out to the public?
And my husband and I say all the time, we don't dance nearly enough because every ad that we see with people our age, they're dancing, and we just don't dance around our kitchen.
I wonder to myself, right, if you ever had a business that came up to you and pitched the idea like one of these, like, Eli Lilly or Pfizer or Moderna. They came up with one of these commercials and they pitched this to you. How would you react to that if you were in that room?
Well, by the time it gets to me, I mean, I'm well down the pecking order. The ad agency has already, given all that information to the corporation. The corporation's bought into whatever ever their ad campaign is. And so I normally don't have much of a choice but to follow suit and to do whatever they want me to do. But if they were to happen to ask me before they go through all that, um, I I've gotten to the point in my career where people actually trust me.
They
That's
should.
that's been
Yeah.
a wonderful part where they contact me and they're like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I give them my honest feedback. But most of the time, those ad agencies, man, they just want to do something amazing. And what I don't understand is that so much of the advertising looks the same. You don't know between Zepbound, Manjaro, uh, Ozempic, the only difference between those ads are the colors of the clothing that they're wearing that match their logo. That otherwise they say the same thing, they do the same thing. And if heaven forbid you're advertising to seniors, I don't know many old people that go to the farmers market as much as those ads take them to the farmers market. When are we going to get something different? When are we going to try to, shake it up a little bit? But yeah, for me, pharmaceuticals are the one place where it's like everything's the same. Whoever you're advertising to, if all the medications are going to this one demographic, all the ads look identical.
It's frustrating. And the reason why it's frustrating to me is because when you come from an artist's view, and then, you take also marketing, which also is creative, you're trying to blend those things together. And putting pharmaceutical aside, it's where when you're trying to create a brand, either your product or you're trying to represent something, like even in an advertisement. I get that people want to be weird and quirky and interesting, but to be fair, I'm trying to finish watching this YouTube video of how to replace and install this alternator on this BMW 7 Series. I don't want to be watching for 30 seconds an emu sticking his head into a thing and then turning pink, and then it's an Amazon Prime commercial. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not I'm like irritated, but I'm also like, what am I watching? Like, who approved this? You know what, Leslie? Let's leave this podcast right now. Let's hop on a plane and talk to these people because they either need therapy. I don't know what they need. They need something.
Well, it's funny you should say that. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and she is in marketing for a university here in Indianapolis. And she was talking about her job journey and that the most mundane job she ever had in marketing was a copy and paste job where here's the templates that we use. You just plug it in, plug it out. And she said, I thought I was going to poke my eyeballs out. And she's like, then I got in with this amazing creative ad agency. It was the best year of my life until they went out of business. So it's like you've got the two extremes of marketing and advertising. It's either mundane or it is a earthquake waiting to go off. And so somewhere in there, the creative field has to blend, which is I think where I come in my industry and what I do for my clients, where you give them the stability and the creativity, repeatability, but I just feel like that in the creative industries, that's a lot of what it is. You're either one way or the other, and not finding that middle ground.
That middle ground is hard because there's no clear direction. Because when like even in the music sector, right? It's become this common norm, which it's called stretch the lie. So you overfilter, you oversaturate, you rent really expensive cars, you rent background actors, you make everything over performance, heavily CGI'd, all of this. Like you go on YouTube right now, most of that stuff, that's pretty much what it is. But then there's also the opposite extreme where you have the underground and you have the indie scene, which is very, very tiny, very, very small. They primarily rely on like either local on local, like you know this, where the manager knows somebody that does photography, the photographer knows a producer, and the producer know everybody kind of knows everybody. So you're able to like tie this whole like shit bag together into one nice like with a bow and ribbon and shit on top of it. But the problem with that is like again, it's the two opposite extremes. Like how can you take that extreme and then bring it together and kind of create something, correct me if I'm wrong, like customized. It's not unique, it's not weird, it's customized.
Yeah, and music is one of those things that I just feel like that so much is lacking in the mainstream music field. I mean, and how do you get some of these independent artists so that we hear more of them? How do I get to that if I'm not going to bury myself, in the independent music scene? But I definitely I hear you completely. It just it's the uniqueness is gone, and for people like me that I just want to hear it on my XM radio, tell me where to go. Um, and how can we support those artists? Because if they're not monetizing it, then it's an overglorified hobby if they can't support themselves at it. And we shouldn't expect our artists to starve.
No. And it's weird because, I've spoken with a lot of producers and managers. And the really cool thing is, a lot of them have told me where they've been able to get in touch with like studios, production houses, where they kind of come together either from different places. Like I had somebody out from Minneapolis, and you got places like Milwaukee as well, and they're just trying to collaborate in order to make this work. And something that you have, which kind of helps in these industries, is real life experience. The hard truth a lot of the times is you have to see these things unfold for your own self. You can't do anything. You just have to stand there, observe, listen, hear, and then kind of build along from there. You know, we get this idea where like, we got to be the champion and the savior, but that's just TV and movies. It doesn't. It's not reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the reality is that we have to support ourselves and our family, and um, give our clients what they expect. And if you're in music, then your clients are the listeners. And for me, it's been a rough road to push and pursue. And there's a lot of times that while you're pursuing it, your passion dies. And I think people in the arts, they don't talk enough about how hard it is when your craft is not making you enough money, and how that affects your passion for it. All of us have egos, all of us. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty low on the ego scale, but when people don't want your services, or when they say you're too expensive, it's just life sucking. And then when you get to this point where I'm at now, and people will compensate me, people want to compensate me, they see what I offer, it makes me more creative. It makes me more passionate that you're seeing what I'm bringing to the table. Let me go above and beyond because you get it. And so I feel for all of the people that are listening to this, struggling, and losing their passion because of it. So here's to remembering everyone that you're one disaster away from success, because that's been my motto about my career, is that I had to take one step in front of the other, and sometimes I was down on my knees, before I got where I am today. So if you have a passion for it and you're good at it, don't give up.
No, you can't give up because there's been so many people before you and so many people will come after you that will all try to be able to do similar things or things around the same regard. But the difference is that you get an opportunity to shape what you want to do and how you represent yourself and how you do it. Being successful doesn't mean that you're a social media star or you're an actor. It means that you're somebody that's successful in what's passionate to you, what your career is. Career doesn't mean that you become a doctor just because your mom told you you have to become a doctor, right? That's not a career. You figure out what can make you money, what you're passionate about, and that's what you go toward. Guess what? I've learned this now too. You're then able to do all of your hobbies and you still can afford it. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I do have to ask you though, as a BMW engineer, I think is what you called yourself. What do you call yourself?
So my name, quote unquote, service technician.
Service technician. How did you become so passionate about creative?
Um, my dad was a blue collar worker. He came from Morocco and immigrated to this country in 1970. And he did plumbing, he did heating, he did construction, he did HVAC. He eventually did modular and architectural design later in his life. And my brother followed suit too. I mean, he got into the automotive industry about 20 years ago. And I've been struggling in the hospitality and I've been for years. I was in the food industry for about 7 years. I was in customer service for about five. And I said, you know what? What is a great position to be in when you've got learning disabilities, you're dyslexic, you're weird, and you love talking to people, and you don't want to talk to people for 8 hours a day, only when you want to? Automotive. So here I am.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you got some of my same learning disabilities. We have a great most creative people, and I've also noticed most successful salespeople are ADHD. And then, oh, hey, Kitty. And then in my family, we have this wonderful thing where we actually don't read from left to right. We read from right to left. And so, like, our brain literally is wired wrong. Literally.
Well, you know what? If we're talking about this, I'll say this straight up. Like, I've even had taking for this program where I had a test that I needed to pass. It's called an ASC. It stands for Automotive Service Excellence. And I took the test 3 times until I passed. I passed on the third try. And we suppose cat. All right. And all over the place. Um, so I had to take this test, and they give us one free take, and I failed that one. So my teacher, whatever, something happened, and I paid for the other two retakes, and they're $93 a piece. I'm telling you this is sometimes even with learning disabilities, it may take you two, three, or four times to pass things. I'm like the top of my class, right? I I can talk to people, all right, and do it really well. Like I'm not a person that's not able to be able to do things. Like we get stuck in this idea in our minds a lot of the times where, oh, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not capable. It's like you're very capable. It's just something that you can get over if you just put in a little bit of work, cry a little bit over the money that you're giving up, but it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
Just because you don't test well is not a sign of intelligence at all. And I feel like that so many of our young people are being discouraged. When I went off to college, I was so terrified of math and science because I didn't test
Yeah,
well.
same.
And yeah, and so in college, I ended up taking computer science because it counted the same credits as Algebra 2. And then if I could take botany in the summer, I wouldn't have to take chemistry.
God.
And then fast forward until I went and got my master's and my brain had finally slowed down a little bit. I freaking graduated with an MBA at a 4.0. But I was so scared in my undergraduate years of math and science because I had been made to believe that I was dumb. Instead of being, no, you just don't think like everybody else and it's just harder. You're just going to have to try harder.
Shit. Oh my god. By the way, for anybody that's listening, that is computer science. Holy shit, that's really hard. Like,
And I loved it. And I had a brain for it, but I couldn't do algebra to save my frickin'
it's
life.
crazy.
Calculus? No way.
And computer science,
Computer science.
I have
Yep.
the same thing. Like, one of the reasons why I picked BMW is I'm very good with electronics. I like. I'm the type of guy. I don't know why. Like my other classmates, like I can look at a wiring diagram. I'm like, oh, that's this. This is that. Oh, I know what that is. That goes there. Oh, that goes over there. I'm like, oh, okay. But you ask me questions about these things off of a piece of paper.
No
You give me the
way.
machine, and I go into the actual system. I can do it like in 10, 15 minutes.
Yep. Well, it's just a different way of thinking. Your brain is literally wired
Mhm.
differently. I had a girlfriend of mine, her daughter had to take the LSATs, the law school
Yeah, yeah,
entry.
yeah.
She had to take them four times, four times. And she finally not only got a good score, she got into the law school of her dreams in DC. So again, everybody, just because we're different, just because we're wired different, doesn't mean we can't accomplish our dreams. It just is a little bit more expensive.
God, no, it's true. You know what? A lot of the times there are these obstacles that come before us, right? And this is something that I wanted to touch on with you is especially when it comes to when you're starting out. You know, you start out even when you are successful and then you venture out into different directions. And you find yourself at a point, how I'm going to navigate this? How am I going to be able to handle this? This is going to be too stressful for me. Life is a fickle thing because sometimes when you start moving around things gradually, it has a way of figuring it itself out. I Do you want to explain it better? Because I don't know. That's the best way I can think of it in my head.
Boy, that's been the story of my life. I feel like that I've learned far more from the failures than I did from the successes. And people call it failing forward, I think is what they say now. But at the time when you're in the depths of it, you can't see that. When you are struggling, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in your job, all you see is that elephant's ass right in your face that things are just sucking right now. And it takes getting over that to look back and go, okay, so that took my path this way, or that taught me this lesson. Um, it's life is hard. Being an adult is
Yeah,
hard.
nobody tells you this, unfortunately.
No, oh, I want to move out and take care of myself. I don't want to answer to my parents. And now all I'm like is, I want a nap. Can I take a nap?
It's weird because I'm in my late 20s. And I realize this. I have a classmate that's 21 and he's in a very serious relationship with somebody and he's got his life very figured out. We've got this thing in our heads. It's like, oh, when we're in our 30s, we'll do this. When we're in our 40s, we'll do that. And when we're in our 50s, we'll do. You know what? I've talked with 70-year-olds that are doing marathons on bicycles. Okay. I've spoken to somebody that's in his 80s that's a physical gymnast and works out every single day. Like, we put ourselves into these boxes due to our age, due to our accessibility, where we're living and whatever. I'm like, is it just our mind trying to get us into that really comfortable lazy boy and not get up? Because I feel like that's what's happening here.
Well, objects that are at rest stay at rest. Once you get in that lazy boy, man, you're not going to get out. I think my couch has suction cups in it because I have to work really hard to get my butt off the couch.
Don't blame you. It's real comfortable. I mean, come on. You're spending like
It's
fifteen
comfortable.
hundred dollars on these couches these days. Come on now. You gotta
I normally have a glass of wine right next to me. I mean, it's just so
candles.
easy.
You get a little music going on. You get a little bit of jazz, maybe a little bit of blues going on. Hey, I ain't going anywhere.
But you're right,
Huh?
society, and I can't blame our parents because, it's not just our parents. It's life. They have these, milestones that you expect, okay, I'm going to go to college and then I'm going to get married and then I'm going to have kids and then I'm going to do this. And I did read an article in USA Today that those milestones are not happening for your generation. That you guys, and I love your generation. Can I just say that out loud? I love 20 somethings. I do. I think that you're going to change the world, and I hope you are. My children are in their 20s and they don't think like me. They don't think like my generation. And I love that. I hear my mom, boomer, just say boomer, um, and she bitches about my 20 somethings. And I'm like, why? Why would you? So my daughter is raising her kids with gentle parenting, not the discipline, not the rigor where when I was a mom, I was like, do what I say because I said it, that's, and she's like, no, she needs an explanation. Tell her why. And I'm like, all right, your kid. Those two kids are happy. They are easy to be around. They walk into a childcare situation at church or at the gym, and they are perfectly adjusted to go separate from my daughter. I'm, you know, I'm thinking she might be right about this. And so when this younger generation comes up and they think differently and they do differently and they don't feel the need, my other daughter is in a throuple. She doesn't feel the need to just have one partner. Go for it. This is your life. This is your way to do it. I think that people, especially my generation, not my mom's generation, we need to cheer you on. And actually, I feel that way about everybody. If you see somebody, your competitor, let's just say another photographer, because I really don't think in a creative industry we're really
You're
competitors.
offering different
We
things.
all do it
Yeah,
different.
you're all offering different
Yeah,
things.
we're all offering different. But let's just say you get hung up on that, and your competitor gets a job you wanted. Well done. Well done. They got it, you didn't get it. I want people to find happiness and joy in this life, whether it's through your work, through your relationships. Do it your way so that when you look back, you have no one to blame or cheer for but yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, what you were talking about, even with gentle parent, I was telling this. So I have a friend of mine, Shane and Jude, and they're a lesbian couple out in Brooklyn. And the two of them, they have Shane has their sister that has two kids, and they've been helping to raise them. And I was like talking to them, like, we're they're having a very different approach with the two of them. Like, they really talk with them when they're getting upset and angry, and they sit them down and have that conversation, like, what's going on. So I had about a month or two ago, I was in a Walmart, and there was this guy. He probably was around my age. He's probably like 28, 29, and his daughter was like throwing a tantrum. So he literally takes her off the cart, like sits her down. He like gets on his knees and he like looks at her and he's like, "What's going on? Why are you crying?" And she's like, "Well, I wanted both toys, but I told you we're only getting one toy." "Yeah, but I want." We discussed we're only getting one toy, right? She's like, "Yeah, okay. Out of these two toys, which one do you want more? This one or this one?" She like went for the one toy, and then he was like, "You got to put the other one back, okay? Because we're only taking this one." And she completely calmed down.
See?
I was just like sitting there, and I was just like, "See, he could have just lost his shit. Like, obviously, like, it was busy. It was Saturday. Like, there's tons of people everywhere. But he was like, okay, I'm getting into dad zone right now, so I can calm down my kids, so I can get the fuck out of the store." And it was beautiful.
Well, yeah. And I guarantee you that that took less time and effort than him losing his shit. Because if she's losing her shit and he's losing her shit, nobody's making any progress to what they want. And I just think, I think that it's a great analysis for the future of the world. What would happen, holy cow, if we sat down with each other and said, what's wrong? What's happening? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And we shut up and let them tell us, and we listened, and then we had a conversation. I just feel like that if that's what this next generation of parent is building, I because my granddaughter, and I've got two, but he's the second one's too little to be anything yet. But my 4-year-old granddaughter already understands consent, that she says no, and she expects you to respect her no. And That's amazing to me. At 4 years old, if she looks at you and says, "Don't take my picture," she expects you not to take her picture, which is it's hard for a photographer, but it's true. But yeah,
She's like,
I
"I'll take
just
a
think that
picture." She
that's
does like the cute things, especially when she gets that new dress and it's like a beautiful springtime. I I feel it. I know what you're going through. She's like, "No, I don't want a picture." Just
yeah. I
perfect.
just bought her a new autumn fairy dress that has wings and a crown, and it's got silver shoes and all this stuff with it. And my mom says, "I want a picture of Charlotte in that dress." I said, "I can't guarantee she's going to let me take her picture, Mom." And she said, "You tell her no more dresses unless I get pictures." I'm like,
No, you can't
"Nope,
do that to a kid.
nope,
Uh-uh.
no, no." So yeah, I mean, I just again, your generation, I'm rooting for you, kid.
You know what though? I think a lot of it comes from, and I'm one of those that I kind of root for Gen X more than I root for millennials. What's kind of happened, especially for people like me, is I've spent a lot of time and I've spoken to a lot of 20-year-olds have kind of had this too, where we interact with a lot of Gen Xers. Either from our jobs, from our managers, our bosses, or people that we meet just from a day-to-day basis, especially like in career sectors. I've noticed even being in the automotive sector. And what we start to see is like the troubling upsetness of, how things have changed so drastically because I went through that. I grew up with tape recorders, CD players, Blockbuster. Walmart was open 24 hours a day. Like, internet was unheard of. Nobody had one. Cell phones were like, we have a landline. Yeah, but how do you call somebody? Even calling somebody like in a couple of states over was like, you got to get permission from your parents because you had to
Yeah,
pay. And then that all completely changes in like 10 years. So you have this whole other generation that understands what I kind of went through because they went through a generation of there's a Vietnam War that turns out to be bullshit. Then there's a Reagan administration was like, why are there so many serial killers? Let's not think about that, okay? Let's put that on the back burner. Then there's the 90s that came around, and then all of a sudden the 2000s, there is that interesting part about humanity, even in the artist sector, or even just in society, where 20 years now becomes a generational understanding. That's
yeah,
crazy. That's crazy.
yeah. Well, and if you just think about it, so I saw this hilarious little thing that talked about Gen Xers and how literally we walked out of the door when the sun rose in the morning and didn't come back to our house until the sun set. And my mom had a bell, a big old bell in our backyard, and she would just pull that bell until all three of us kids came home, and that let us know that dinner was ready. And there we were surviving out on our own, begging for food from other people's moms because my mom worked and their mom didn't work and she didn't leave any food for me. So I'm just going to go find somebody that's got some food. And then when I got older, I literally was cooking for myself because my parents were never home after school. And so it's like you just sit back and you go, yeah, we're a pretty cool generation. We survived a lot of shit.
Yeah. But you know what? That also shows in like resilience of arts and creativity. Where I've seen this too, especially in the artist sector, where you have Gen Xers that may have failed in the 90s and may have not done very well, but now they're working with newer generations and either producing, managing, creating labels, figuring out different ways that they can help in the music. And I think that's kind of amazing because then you have people around my age or people in their 30s where they now have a real cut and dry case. Because again, nothing against like boomers and the other generation, but it's like so much of that stuff is monetary. It's what car you drive, what house you have, who are your neighbors, what you're wearing, who you're talking. Like, I don't like any of those things. Like, who cares where I live? Who cares what I drive? Like, who cares what I be dressing? Like, I wear whatever kind of clothes I want to. If I don't feel like wearing a tank top, I'm wearing a freaking tank top. I don't care.
I do think that that is definitely a plus to your generation, but I think it's also a plus to your mindset. And so my husband has the very same mindset. See, I love to dress up. I love to wear dresses and high heels and all the jewelry. And so we'll go out to lunch and I'll be wearing a full dress with heels and he'll have on shorts and a tank top and a baseball hat. And he just looks at me and goes, everybody thinks I'm your yard man. I said, you know what? You're the hottest yard man I know because I don't care. And I just feel like that we all need to be uniquely us. I don't need to be around more people that look and think like me. I don't even like to look and think like me sometimes. I need to be around people that can talk to me intelligently about what matters and what are you doing right now? I love doing podcasts because of this, but I also volunteer my time at universities when teachers need people in marketing and advertising to come to class and talk. And so I go not just back to my alma mater, but any university that wants to capitalize on my knowledge at this age, I give back because those young people, they energize me. My clients that are younger than me energize me. And going and volunteering at universities, it just builds me up and they inspire me. They inspire me to do more, inspire me to engage.
100%. And I mean, it even speaks with how the marketing sector is changing because, you get people with different mindsets and attitudes towards it. I am one of those that very much of a candidate that marketing is an art. Okay. You can't just be a numbers guy and be able to do marketing. You have to also have some type of artistry in your mind, just like an architect needs, in order to do marketing right. 'Cause it's not just numbers, dealing with demographics and people and areas and like a market in Indianapolis, right? It could be completely different than Atlanta, Georgia, but it's the same thing. No, it's not. It's two different markets.
Totally different. And you're exactly right, which goes back to our initial conversation. You cannot run the same advertising in Indiana that you do in Atlanta and reach the same people. And it, marketing has to be that we have an ad agency here in Indianapolis that is top of their game, and it's called Valve and Meter Marketing. And what they do is that they put all the components in to research your demographic, research what you're supposed to, how you're going to reach them. And then they start by a trial and that's why they call it valve and meter. They put out 3 to 4 trials at one time and which one gets the results you're looking for and which ones don't. And then they pull back on the advertising that doesn't work and go full throttle on what does work. And they call it math before marketing because you have to do the research and develop. You have to do who send out surveys to your clients. You have to do all of that research before you can use your creativity to go into those valves and then pull them back or accelerate forward. So I feel like that all of that, and people don't like to do all that work. They're like, I need a new website. Let's just throw it together. Wait, what's your goal with your website? Who are you trying to reach? Even with my website, as small business as I am, we sent out a survey to all my clients asking them, do you need the service that we offer? Should we offer this service and change what we offer? And we sent a very short survey. Do you need my website to provide um, uh, like a Dropbox or a log in, log out where you can get your images straight from my website? Everybody said, no, we don't need you to do that. Great. I don't have to spend money on that. But they did tell me that they are only purchasing my type of photography off of website searches. They're not getting it from Instagram because we asked them specifically Instagram, TikTok, where are you getting your photographers from? And they all said internet searches. And so if you don't know where your clients are getting your name from, how can you possibly advertise?
No, I know. The problem is, it's basically being able to self level. It's where to be able to understand of where exactly you're trying to put your see, this is my problem, especially with this whole drive of social media influence, okay? Is you're dealing with a very improbable demographic because in the end of the day, your stuff is being pushed out by an algorithm. It could go anywhere. Okay. I've been very fortunate enough where it's primarily stayed here in the United States and Canada because of mostly of the people that I'm talking to and the way that I try to be able to market this out. But when you run into that and then you have millions of followers, you're like, oh yeah, but I'm successful. You're not successful. You just have a million random people that are your followers. You have no understanding of where they're from. They could be from Pakistan. I mean, they could be from Egypt. It could be, you know what I mean? Like, these things are not taken into account for. And you brought up a really great point: is knowing this before is invaluable. Come on.
Yeah. And I worry for the people that are only influencers, because in my opinion, and this is not, I appreciate that you're making money at it. What's the next step? What are you going to do when you're no longer able to monetize that? Because something, you age out of it. You don't change with the times fast enough, because you don't see that you're losing followers because people don't stop unfollowing you. They just don't pay attention to you anymore. I just feel like that, I think that getting out of corporate America for creative people, wonderful. Corporate America will suck the life out of you more than anything. But what corporate America offers us is it offers us a security that I'm just not sure influencing can offer people long term, like a career, 20 years. And I just hope that people are thinking about that as they're spending so much of their time influencing.
The interesting part about influencing is, like, I can shift on to my own career path, and I'd love to hear on your own career path. It's where being in the automotive sector, and a lot of people just don't get this, is you anybody can be a mechanic, okay? And it doesn't mean that you're special. But if you influence yourself to specialize and you put yourself, let's just say, in more of like German brand or JDM brand, I'm not saying Honda and Toyota, but I'm saying like other JDM brands. If you put yourself in there, okay, so then you have a way of influencing yourself in that corporation to then position yourselves at a higher pay, better experience, because then you get to tell them what you want to do. Because again, you're the skilled work that they need. You're no longer you're no longer the person that needs a job. They need you more than you need them. So that's an influence, and that gives you that security that if you want to venture out to do anything else, you have the next step, because that's what you're working towards. This gets lost a lot of times because people are like, well, but I need I need the ads, I need the stuff to come in, to be able to. Yeah, but you can get that in other ways, and that actually gives you
Mhm.
long term results instead of just staying a 9 to 5 for 50 years.
Yeah, and I think that when you're speaking about something like automotive, that is anything that is a hands-on job like automotive. I feel like that's the future. I really, really do, because less and less people are learning to work with their hands. Um, Electricians, I feel the same way about, and I think you're right. To specialize in a specific kind of technical work is going to loft your career. But in photography, and unless you're in a huge market, New York, London, Milan, LA, uh, we've got some going on in Dallas and Atlanta and Chicago. Those are probably just right under those. If you specialize in photography or in a specific type of videography, you have to price yourself at such a high price point that if you only get 3 to 4 jobs a year, it's enough for you to make a living. And that's, in a market like Indianapolis, all the specialists in Indianapolis are gone because they went out of business. There's just not enough volume of work for you to do one thing. I've got a great friend in Northern Indiana, one of the best photographers I know, and he said that he worked only 4 months last year and sat on his ass for the rest of the time because people don't see him as a generalist. They only call him for specialized work. And so, he and I were just talking about business, and I've got a job where I'd like to bring him alongside me to shoot with me because it's more volume than I can handle by myself, and I need his expertise. And he just looked at me and he goes, "You mean to tell me you're going to pay me you're going to find the work. You're going to deal with the client, and all I have to do is take pictures. I said, yes. He said, I am in because he doesn't know how to do the networking and the selling and all of those things that I do. He's just well known for his specific niche, and he doesn't know how to get in work beyond it because he's never had to.
See, what happens also, and I've seen this too, even in filmmaking, where the way that a lot of indie filmmakers have been able to be very successful is they don't own their own house. They build a production company with other people. So they all become part shareholder of this production house. That way, it's not where some person may have a better skill doing something else, and this other person has a better skill of doing that, and they bring all of that together in order to make it successful. There are independent filmmakers that do it independently. It's not unheard of, but it's a lot harder if you can't do the necessary and capability of doing all of those pieces yourself, because let's be honest, it's a lot of work for one person.
It sure is. It sure is. And we can't all be good at
No.
everything. So I had a client who actually is a photographer, but she works in marketing. And she came in today actually to update her headshot. And she said, I don't know how you work with studio lights. She goes, I just never got it. I don't know how to do it. She goes, if I can't use available light, I don't do it. And I said, that's so funny because she likes to shoot and capture people candidly. She likes to let them do their own thing and just capture it as it goes. I said, I stink at being an event photographer. I stink. I hate it. I don't like anything about it. I said, so you can't do studio photography. I can't do candid photography. We can't all be good at everything. We can't.
No, and I think what it also veers down to is it's not a clear path to find your exact niche, what you're really good at. But if you don't take the necessary steps and try all those things to see what you're actually good at, you never really could get there.
Yeah, it's true. And I just happened to come into photography at a time where, even though film was going to be removed from my industry within 10 years of me starting, I had to learn on film and I had to learn with hot lights. And then I had to learn on strobes. And then I had to learn on a 4x5 camera and a 2 1/4 camera. And so I actually shot on an 8x10 camera many, many times. And so, and my mom, and this is the other thing, with being a third generation photographer, my mom took Ansel Adams' last workshop in LA. She was, oh no, it wasn't LA, it was Monterey. She was in his class, and I have a poster signed by Ansel Adams because my mom was sitting in his very last class. Do you know the amount of information that passed on to me as the next generation photographer because of her experiences? And my dad's experiences. And so, all those things, even though, people don't shoot with hot lights much anymore. Now they use LEDs, which is a similar method as the hot lights. But I got the best of my generation. I got the best of the education in old photography that just catapulted me into the digital world. And now I still am able to go back to those roots of knowing how light works. I had to learn how light works. And it just, one of my friends says I'm a idiot savant because of how I can see light. I can tell you what colors the lights are without a temperature meter. She said you're just an oddity. But I feel very, very fortunate that I had all that.
No, it is very fortunate, and it also gives you real hands-on experience as well. I'll tell you straight up, I've played around with film cameras, and when it comes to film, it's a whole. First off, you don't even know what's on there, all right? You have to guess before making sure you got everything correct. And worst case scenario, if there's noise, oh, you're screwed. You know, you're
Yep.
using the tripod and the tripod leg gets loose and you're trying to hold a shutter, especially at night, and trying to get that night exposed. That that is something that's long been forgotten. I think every other photographer from now on should go through that suffering. Okay, just put them outside at like
100.
12 a.m. Take a picture of that tree. Yeah, but it's dark out.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yep. So back in the old days, we had to figure out ways to create the looks we were going for by either changing films, adding filters, whatever it was that you wanted to do. And I finished up a nighttime shoot this week, and I'm looking at my images, and they're absolutely beautiful. And I just had to chuckle because what we used to do is that you would go to take a nighttime shot, and you would actually use tungsten film instead of daylight film so that it would intensify the color of the sky to make it look more vibrant because it would balance for the inside lights in the house or in the building that you're shooting, and then the sky would go purple. It was beautiful. And now you just look at it and you go, that looks, it just shows up like that on your a digital camera now. But in the old days, we had to figure it out. You had to test your film, and you had to, I used to shoot products for airplanes that were like this big, and you used to have two bellows on your 4x5 camera to reach it. And you'd have to have an extra stand in the middle. So it was lens, bellow, stand, bellow, film. And you would have to measure that and calculate the bellows factor for how much extra exposure you had to put on your film. It was math. I told you how I feel about math. It was math.
God. But you know what? That does showcase the amount of advancements that has taken. And I think anything that you can learn of today is it's still hard to be successful creatively. But now it's become easier and easier. Yes, it's more expensive to move. Yes, it's more expensive to buy equipment. Yes, it's more expensive to do most things. But it's kind of counteractive as to what you're gaining now. Because now you have people that can come in there and do everything that you could have done in the past, but 10 times to 20 times better. Because instead of using those tons of lenses and all that, you can use a lens this big and it does the exact same shot automatically. You just put it on a tripod, position your lights, bam, done, finished. Did you use
But you know what technology can never take place of
what?
is somebody's
That's
creativity
true.
and somebody's vision. And when I'm working with young photographers, one of the biggest things that they don't know is lens compression.
Really?
They don't understand if you've got a zoom lens, because most people are not purchasing fixed lenses anymore
No.
because they can get, two lenses where I have eight fixed lenses in my case because that knowledge of what am I trying to accomplish? Okay, I want to make the background go really out of focus. Okay, so I'm going to put on a long lens to complete that because I really want it to go soft. Or I've got somebody who is maybe a little bit heavier set. And the longer lens I put on them, the slimmer they're going to look. And I know that. So it's a brain thing. And people don't understand when they see the images of themselves and they don't look the way they think they don't understand that it's most likely the photographer because that photographer doesn't understand how to shoot people with a knowledge of what can I do. When I get somebody that's heavy set, if I shoot them from a higher angle, they will look slimmer. People don't know all that because they just take a picture and they're like, oh, I did it. I captured a picture instead of, but really, what am I trying to do? And that's what the creative mind does. That's what it is for artists, for musicians. It's for everybody in the creative field. No matter what the technology is, it cannot take the place of your specific creativity.
It's so funny that you mentioned. By the way, I have had your website up here, and when you're talking about this, you can totally see this. It's like you have like on your website, like your a lot of the work that you've done, like architecture, headshots, and all those things. And when you're looking at these pictures, I can kind of like I'm very visual in this sense, so I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm like visualizing it at the same time. It's true. It's like even when you look at these headshots, it's like every single person I can kind of tell like, okay, they they kind of wanted that position, they kind of wanted that background, they kind of wanted to wear those clothes, they kind of wanted that to go in that direction. You're like, okay, okay, I can see it. I see it now. Damn, it's wild. It's because you don't think about that a lot of the times when you look at even architecture. You know, you just look at like, oh, okay, that's just a picture of a pretty building. But then when you actually think of like, oh wow, so somebody either from the business wanted to take that picture and got a photographer that they really matched to this. and then they got that design, and you can kind of get why, because either maybe the structure has like nice wood facade on there, or they have a nice cool parking lot. I don't know, whatever it may be. But when you can get the other person's vision without even asking them, I feel like that's a good thing. I think so.
Yeah. So this week we built a new arena in I'm from Noblesville, which is a suburb of Indianapolis. And I'm sure you've heard of the Indiana Pacers since we went to the finals this year, but they have a G League that's been playing out of Fort Wayne. And so we built a new arena here in Noblesville to bring them from Fort Wayne to get that G League closer to the Pacers home office in Indianapolis. And so this arena is beautiful. And when I went to the grand opening for this arena, I ran into one of my clients and I'm like, did you build this? And they're like, yeah, we built it. I said, who's going to shoot it for you? And he goes, well, do you want to shoot it? I'm like, sure. And so we got a team together. It took us 3 weeks just to get ready to shoot the building. And the day before the shoot, I'm emailing the facility because none of my clients came. I ended up working for 4 different clients. None of them came because they know they didn't need to. Leslie will handle it. Leave her alone. I can go about my life because I had to start shooting at 5 and I wasn't done shooting till 9. Why should they ruin their evening? Go home. And so I had to coordinate with the facility to make sure that all the lights inside and outside the building were on and that they stayed on from 5 o'clock till 10 o'clock. And people, they look at a beautiful picture and they're like, boy, they sure did get lucky to get that. Uh-huh, sure, got really lucky with that. Because sometimes I get to a shoot and the client's supposed to coordinate the lighting, and at dusk, everything changes. It's like, what happened to the lights in the parking lot? Well, it's nighttime. They don't need the lights in the parking lot anymore. And so it really does take creativity, but it also takes collaboration and getting every different component to work together. And for me, I try so hard to take everything off my clients that I can. So I was working directly with the facility so that my clients didn't have to. And it all goes with the final image. So yes, you see a beautiful photograph that was taken at sunset, and it probably took 3 weeks to make that one picture happen.
I love that though, especially with photography, where a lot of times it gets lost, where what you're seeing is not only a vision of the origin, I would say, but you're also seeing the level of creativity, because what we're viewing is it's a lens, a frozen piece of time that you're able to see. Like, again, oh my god, I'm like so obsessed. There's like one with the interior design that I was just like gawking at. It was like a brick building, and there's like a bar in the background.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I could just picture myself just sitting there at the bar and being like, "Yo, can I get a double, please?" Of what? I don't care. Just give me a double. But
that's
but
hilarious.
it's interesting where so much of our past, so much of who we are as people, even arenas and stadiums, we have pictures. That's how we remember things. We have a photograph somewhere, either saved or put in a museum. And that's something that's everlasting. It's not just representing something, but it's being able to almost make a time capsule in an image.
Well, because once these buildings get open to the public, they immediately start losing and deteriorating value. The more people that go in there, the more they trash the place. And so we do try to get in there right away before the public gets a chance to leave their mark on it. And that makes it so, yes, we want pictures with people in it because it shows you scale and it shows you excitement and engagement. But we also want to take them with nobody in it so that it is pristine and beautiful. But one of the things I wanted to tell you specifically about that arena is that I'm working for 4 different clients, all that have 4 different needs: the construction company, the engineering firm, the interior designer, and the furniture provider. So those are it's kind of like doing 4 unique shoots, but I have to do it all at the same time and make sure that my creativity doesn't miss what might be important to one client because I'm focusing on what's important for another client. And so I think that as our artists are thinking about that, I want my clients to share the payment for my fees because I know that I'm expensive. And so the way to do that is to include more and more people on the job to split the investment. Well, that also means I have to meet everybody's goals. I have to think like the furniture person. I have to think like the interior designer. I have to think like the engineer and the contractor. Four completely different demographics for those pictures. And so I just think that, when you're thinking about how you hire your creative, there's a lot that goes into being creative for multiple different brands.
It's it's very true. I mean, on the other side, even with podcasting, I've been able since 2021 to really carve out where I do a podcast that's primarily artist conversations. But I've also realized that I'm able to use the same skill set because I am fascinated about other things as well, where I'm able to have different conversations with different kinds of people. You know, and a lot of the times, like, I feel this idea of art being just, oil painting or just getting in front of a mic, it's so discrediting towards all the other creativity things like we were talking about. Like, I think marketing is very creative. I think accounting can be very creative. I think somebody that does astronomy or physics, photography, these are all creative fields and endeavors that people have passions for. And what I think a lot of times that gets misunderstood or maybe not always represented, which I try to do, is you have a really cool story to share. You have something that you've spent blood, sweat, and tears on that we kind of forget that we're not alone. We have so many other people trying to do all sorts of different things and all going towards our passions and creativities, but get sucked up, unfortunately, like we talked about this earlier with the politics and the social changes and the heresy and the, oh my god, misgendering people and the anti-Semitism. It's like, my god, my brain is just like, I can't process this garbage anymore.
It's so challenging. And I was listening to several of your podcasts this morning, and you're right. You do have an amazing way of speaking to people. One of them was an author, and I really enjoyed hearing you two talk about how she struggled to, you know, you get in your head that because I've always wanted to write a book. I've got a book in my head. I really want to write it. I'm scared to death. But listening to how she has all those voices in her head that are getting in her way of telling the story, what is her public, how's she going to sell this to her publisher? How's she going to do this and that, instead of just getting the story out of her head. And you did a wonderful job of connecting that in the similar way that when you had an independent musician that you were talking to. And you do a great job at changing how you're viewing this podcast according to who you're talking to. I enjoyed it immensely, and that author really inspired me.
Yeah, but you know what? That does also tie into even the work that you're doing. It's not just about us offering a service or us being able to be there as an expertise, but it's being able to adapt to different situations. The truth is, in life, we have a choice. We can either fit the norms or complain that we're too weird to fit any type of boxes. Instead of actually figuring out ways of, like, okay, I'm good at this. I can help out in this direction. I can help out in that. Maybe I can add this. Maybe I can add that. I think that's what it really just boils down to. It's just get in there, figure it out. Like, but I don't know furniture. Okay, so you don't have to know Raymore and Flanagan's catalog like the back of your. Do you know Raymore and Flanagan's you know catalog like the back of your hand? No, you have to. It's ridiculous.
I think I think that especially with creative people, we do get in our own way. That I can tell you that when I'm taking pictures and I'm looking at the images as I go, and I've got this, voice in my head, you suck, these are terrible, these are terrible. And then I get back home and I open up the computer and I'll get one of my assistants that calls me and she's like, so now that you've looked at the images at home, what do you think? I go, I really did a good job today.
Uh, You need that little bit of adrenaline, that little bit of a bump just to get you through.
Yeah, we're our own worst critics, I tell you.
Um, what was I going to ask you? Oh, we've been talking about Studio 13. I know that you work on other stuff as well. We've spoken about this before. Generally speaking, where can can you find, like, your social media? I know where your website is, all that fun jazz.
Yep. So studio13online.com. I know it's a terrible website name, but back then the online was important and I've been doing it too long now to take it out. So studio13online.com is my website. Studio 13 on LinkedIn, Studio 13 Indie on Instagram, and then Leslie Lane also on LinkedIn. So you can find me all those places, and I would love to connect with anybody that would like to.
And you said that you've done other projects and other things on your own time, like you were mentioning you'd volunteer to help out other students and things. Uh,
I do. So I'm, part of being in business, especially this business, is I'm out in the community all the time. I have to meet with people face to face, networking, and increasing my network of people. So I volunteer at the Butler University. That's my alma mater, Alumni Association Board of Directors. I've been on that board for 2 years. I have 2 years left. I'm also the treasurer for Noblesville Creates, which is our North Side Arts Council. We handle helping people connect with different artists in the area for commissioned pieces, as well as working with the cities and states around here to promote art in the community. And then one of my clients is Ivy Tech University, and I do offer myself up to talk to their classes down there. And then the University of Indianapolis was where I was at this week, speaking to their marketing and advertising students.
Busy. Just put it like that.
I am.
Leslie's busy. But I think that's really awesome. I mean, if anybody is thinking about Indianapolis for their career or just relocating, well, got Leslie over here. Sure, you can reach out.
I am actively looking for my successor. So I'm actively looking to bring someone on to mentor them and spend the next 10 to 15 years phasing out. So that's my goal.
Listen, put it out there. All the links and everything are going to be below in the description box. I'll make sure to put also for your social media and everything, so if anybody needs to find you, they'll be able to. Seriously, this whole conversation has just been eye-opening and really just breaking down to what it really is. Because we get caught and lost in our heads. Why don't we have 1 million followers? Why am I famous? Why am I not successful? Why does my family keep telling me I need to become a surgeon? It really helped kind of explain all of that. This doesn't happen overnight. I don't think anybody should walk out of here like, all right, this is my New Year's resolution tomorrow. Snap.
Would not. Would not.
Listen, thank you so much for coming on and spending your time. I really appreciate this. Opening up your world of photography.
Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure speaking to you and getting to know you better. You're quite good at what you do.
Well, to anybody out there, if you want to check out more of the podcast, you can find us on everywhere. And channel. We're on Rumble and Substack. So with that, catch you next week. All right, peace out.